Good morning, House District 60. It is Friday, March 7th, about 9 o'clock in the morning. Finishing up week 7 here in Salem, getting ready to go to the full Ways and Means Committee at 9:30. Just wanted to give you an update on how this last week has gone. We had a couple of public hearings that I talked about last week that were going to come up this week. One was on House Bill 3103, public hearing on predictive harvest levels in state forest lands. Had a good public hearing. We had quite a bit of opposition to it, a couple hundred. We had quite a few people in support of it, a couple hundred. What it does is it requires ODF on state forest lands to set what the predictive harvest level will be and to stick with it. They have to do a 10-year harvest level, and if they can't meet the goals in which they set, there is an ability for that extra timber to be rolled over to the next year. It's a good governance bill. Still have a few amendments to work through with industry on it, but I do believe that we'll have the votes to get out of committee. It'll go to Ways and Means because it'll have a fiscal, and we'll have to work on it down there. But just a good governance bill. Been very excited to work through that with the industry. We also had a public hearing on House Bill 3346. House Bill 3346. Mid-State Co-op down in Lake County, goes up into Deschutes County. Part of it, I believe, came to me and said with some landowners that we'd like to site some solar panels in some of the corners of the pivot. This area is a classified groundwater where they're not allocating any more groundwater. These corners of the pivots already have the infrastructure in them for where they could wheel out the power. You could put 1 or 2 megawatts of power in each corner. You have a willing cooperative. You have willing landowners that want to do this. There's some land use hurdles. So we'd like to take this from an exception process to a conditional use process that the county could, if so desired, support and move forward. We're working with the Department of Land Conservation and Development to figure out what are the next steps. We'll keep you posted on that. We probably actually won't have policy on that one until 2026. This week, I also sat on the Judiciary Committee, which I'm not typically a member for 2 days, to listen to the informational hearing on House Bill 3666. House Bill 3666. It's been a conversation that I've been involved with now for 6 months. It is trying to figure out how to provide some liability to our energy providers. There's three types of energy providers in the state of Oregon. You have your investor-owned utilities like PGE, you have Pacific Corp. You have your community cooperatives, community-owned utilities that most of House District 60 is in. I believe there's 18 co-ops, and then you have some public utility commission and municipal utilities. My intent and why I'm in those conversations is to try to provide some liability protection for our COUs, our community-owned utilities. They are a nonprofit, as most of you know, but the fear, and you go through those co-ops and you talk to the general managers and you ask them what keeps them up at night, is when have they done enough to prevent the wildfire from occurring? Who do they give the keys to if the fire starts and a lawsuit comes? The co-ops were set up to provide rural power into communities where there's very, very little return on investment. They are very community-based. We need to try to figure out how to get them protection so we can continue the power supply to our rural communities. It's going to be an interesting conversation moving forward. We did have the informational hearing on that, but I'll keep you up to date. I was fortunate enough to carry 2 bills on the House floor this week, excuse me. One of them we talked about last week was House Bill 3127, which was the electronic death certificate filing, basically. So currently, if there's a hospital in the state of Oregon that has more than 10 deaths, they have to file the death certificates electronically. The medical examiner, whoever files the death certificates, has to go onto the online system. The funeral director in those areas go onto the online system. They typically get the death certificate back in 6-7 days or under a week. For those hospitals that have less than 10 deaths per year, they don't have to file them electronically. They can still file them through paper. And some of our funeral home directors have come to us and say, Mark, it can take up to 28 days to get that death certificate back. And that family is left hanging for those 4 weeks period of time because a lot of the closure needs to occur once the death certificate gets passed unanimously off the House floor. Now we'll watch it and shepherd it through the Senate side to make sure that every time a death occurs, that it is using the electronic form and that we can get an expedited return on that death certificate. There is a little small carve out. I think in 2024 there was 31 home burials. We're not going to affect those. Some of those are for religious purposes, and those won't have to use the electronic filing form, but the vast majority will. Also carried HCR 12, House Current Resolution 12, which would call February 11th, 2026 Oregon Wheat Day. That's the 100th year anniversary of when 200 wheat growers got together in 1926 and started the first wheat commodity corporation in the state of Oregon. Wheat brings in over $1 billion of revenue, indirect and direct, to the state of Oregon. It's grown in all four corners. We have a lot of great wheat growers at House District 60. It was a pleasure to carry that bill for them. Not only do we feed Oregonians, we feed the world. We produce some excellent wheat. Watch that go through the Senate. We'll also shepherd it through there. But I do fully expect that next year, February 11th, 2026, we will be celebrating National Wheat Day, Oregon Wheat Day, excuse me. Coming in next week, we have two bills up on Monday that I've been working on and are priorities for me. One is House Joint Resolution 12. House Joint Resolution 12. Been working with Senator Nash, working with Oregon Hunters Association on this one. It would do is it would change the initiative petition process in Oregon. So currently, if you want to put something on the ballot, you have to go gather signatures in the state of Oregon. There's no requirement on where you get those signatures. Most of the time, those vast majority of those signatures come from the Portland or metro area because there's a lot of people there. What you need to do is gain 6% of the total amount of people that voted in the last gubernatorial election to get something on the ballot if it's a non-constitutional change. What the measure does, or what the House Joint Resolution does, is forces those signature gatherers to go to every congressional district in the state of Oregon for a much better geographical representation and get those signatures, the qualifying amount of signatures per congressional district. So we're going to force them to come into our communities and see if we'll support some of the very tough ballot measures that have come on before us, like legalizing drugs, might not be able to gather the signatures in some of our communities. It's a good change. We'll keep you posted on that one. We do have a hearing and rules on that. Also have a hearing in House Bill 3104, Rural Community Resource Center. I'll keep you posted. Boy, I said I'll keep you posted a lot in this video. Sorry about that. It's trying to put some staff out there to help some of our smaller counties and cities have the professionals that could come in to go from concept to development to implementation. A lot of our real small cities and counties have great staff, but they don't have staff in every perspective. Maybe they don't have, engineers on board. Maybe they don't have somebody that specializes in capital stacks. So just to augment the staff that they have in order for them to go from concept to moving people in if it's housing. It's getting ready to take off after Joint Ways and Means and go up and watch some 1A state basketball in Baker. So I hope to see some of you up there. You have teams playing. Look forward to some good competitions. Talk to you next week.